Right, beautiful people, we're still here. The Gardens of AGR, Africa Global Radio, our story, our growth, our future. Having an insightful conversation with Professor Yidana and Dr. Mankutam. Professor Yidana is actually a lecturer at the University, Grand Valley University in the USA. Areas of specialty, historical sociology, political economy, in development and culture. Dr. Mankutam, formerly associate professor of area in global studies at Grand Valley State University, Michigan, USA. Now lectures at the University of Environment and Sustainable Development here, Somanya in Ghana. And believe me, he's here in Ghana, so you don't have to worry. Somanya is just around, so if you want to see him, you can just get yourself a car and get there. And he's also he's in the general studies in the he's actually in the department of general studies in the School of Natural and Environmental Sciences. He is the author of Travel and the Pan-African Imagination. Quite an interesting book that I will be asking him a little bit about as the conversation goes on. But then we're going to our third topic, which for me, I mean, with respect to my ties with Nigeria, I mean, I know Nigeria like myself because I grew up there. I mean, I have brothers and sisters, like biological brothers and sisters. So I really love Nigeria. I mean, I talk about Nigeria every now and then. I mean, happy can testify to that. But here, we're looking at the centrality of Nigeria to West Africa. Quite an interesting topic or way, I must say, quite an interesting way that Professor carved this particular topic. What are we looking here? How big is Nigeria to Western Africa or the sub-Saharan region and as large Africa? And of course, and also, are we underestimating Nigeria, Professor?
In what way?
In terms of development, in terms of its contribution? Because if you look at Nigeria, I mean, in terms of centrality, we talk about its contribution to ECOWAS. Yeah. First of all, let me even go to ECOWAS.
Yes.
Because ECOWAS, Nigeria is one of those powerhouses.
Yes.
So are we underestimating Nigeria in that regard, in terms of development, in terms of what they can do for the sub-region of Africa and Africa as well?
Okay. No. If a child can walk 1,000 miles and the child walks 300 miles, you can acknowledge the 300 miles. However, there's still 700 miles that the child can walk.
Right.
Exactly. So Nigeria is in that predicament. It's not my sort of pessimistic out view of Nigeria.
Right.
It's not predicated on the fact that it hasn't done anything at all. It's predicated on the fact that what it can do, it has not done. And that's not even an extraordinary performance. I am talking of the ordinariness of what it can do.
Wow.
That's it.
Just the surface.
Yes, what it can do. Now, in terms of the centrality of Nigeria, both in the magnitude of its population, so the physical magnitude.
Absolutely.
Nigeria now is about 211 million.
Over 200 million, exactly.
Right? Okay, so that can eclipse Sierra Leone, Liberia, Gambia, Ivory Coast, even Ghana.
Even Ghana.
So what that tells you is that it is both a geopolitical potential. It is of potentially geopolitical importance to West Africa.
Right.
But it's also a West African nightmare, geopolitically speaking. So when I talk of Nigeria in the book, I am looking, in earlier this century, ECOWAS was worried about Al-Qaeda in West Africa.
Exactly.
And I had this conversation with Professor Mankutam when he was at my university. And I said, Al-Qaeda is the least problem for West Africa. An unstable Nigeria is
the problem.
That is the economical, that's the political as well as environmental nightmare. And so try and consider that if, and I made that argument by looking at certain factors. You have MEND, you have the secessionist movement in Biafra,
exactly.
You have Boko Haram, and you have a failed state, because Nigeria is for all and purposes a failed state. Because one of the fundamental functions of a modern state is to provide safety and security for its citizens.
Absolutely, fortunately.
Right? So those four factors then led me to surmise that if Nigeria explodes, there is no single West African country that can absorb refugees from Nigeria. And they're not going to go to Mauritania. It's a desert. They're not going to go to Niger.
Niger, right.
They are coming to West Africa. Now, think about the 80s when they sent back a few million Ghanaians.
Yeah.
Ghana
must go,
were
huh?
probably not born. Yeah.
We were not born, but we heard
Yes.
about it, yeah.
We had to queue in Jamestown for hours to buy raw kinky to go home and cook. We queued to buy roasted granules. Yes, ask your fathers. You understand? So I think of Nigeria in that sense. So
Wow.
the nightmare scenario is a Nigeria that collapses. Because the state failure theories are of two kinds. There's the one where the reach and scope of the state is questionable. And there's the one where the state just caves in. Right? So that's what I mean by the centrality of Nigeria.
Right.
It's economically powerful. It's physically powerful. It's a resource
Powerhouse.
place of bonanza. Right? So if you look at the investments from China, for instance, much of it has gone to Nigeria. Right? Between 2010 and 2016, China has invested close to $1 billion in Nigeria.
Very interesting submission right there. Nigeria being a powerhouse. I mean, being the most populous country in not just the sub-Saharan region, but the entire continent. And of course, I mean, every now and then, everywhere across the world, there's an element of Nigerian there, you know. And this is even when, as Prof mentioned, that Nigeria has not yet even exploded, which we don't pray to see. But then we still see, you know, Nigerians every now and then, everywhere, engaging in trade or some form of activities and what have you. And of course, this is as a result of some of them talking about the fact that things are not good back home. We need to go out there and, of course, define our own future and what have you. Let me go to Dr. Mankutam on this particular issue, the centrality of Nigeria to West Africa. I mean, clearly, as Prof mentioned, back in the days, my dad used to tell me that if you have not traveled to Nigeria before, then you have not traveled anywhere. Forget the US and the England and English and England and what have you. If you have not been to Nigeria, then you have not traveled. I mean, that shows how Nigeria has been carried and is seen across the Western, regions of Africa and, of course, the rest of the world generally. Doc, what is your take on the magnitude and the potential that Nigeria can do for the sub-region and Africa at large?
Thank you very much for the question. Two things. I'd like to expand it to also encompass not only the sub-region in West Africa, but also the diaspora. I think it's critical to understand the centrality of Nigeria even to the production of the African diaspora in the Americas.
Right.
Even today, scholars are now suggesting in innovative ways that even the majority of people of African heritage in the United States, whom we call African Americans today, actually are descendants from not people from, say, Ghana, but Central and West Africa, particularly the Ndongo Kingdom, and what we call current day Nigeria today. So I think that Nigeria will continue to play a critical role even in how we imagine not only the future but the past as well. I wanted to also go back to the issue of security in Nigeria. The Council on Foreign Relations, for instance, issues a Nigeria security ticker on a consistent basis. And it seems as if the fact that many experts contend that the deadliest terrorist network in the world is right here in West Africa. But our collective response to that fact, I think, is problematic.
Collective response to that.
Yes.
By that, countries around the sub-Saharan region put in resources together to combat this whole thing, this whole terrorism around this region.
Yes. Let me add, if you don't mind, Prof.
No, please.
You see, take Boko Haram, for instance. It is a hybrid of ideological as well as concrete social grievances.
Yeah.
Okay. What that tells me is the longevity. What it's been able to do. You don't have to be an expert or work at the U.S. Foreign Relations, or even be a professor or anything like that, to probably think that there must be some of the military elites who are sympathetic to the movement.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
consider that. And I say that because in northern Ghana recently,
Right.
the police commander in, I think, Upper East
Okay.
was transferred, not sacked, by the way, for having been found to be in bed with a syndicate of robbers in the region. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? So the diaspora situation, secondly, quickly, is very interesting. I mean, other than Haiti,
Okay.
where one can argue that the Benin's culture
Yeah,
has
in there.
influence. If you go to a place like Cuba, the most dominant religion is Santeria. Santeria, the fundamental god of Santeria is Shango, which is the god of thunder.
In
the
Nigeria,
Yoruba
Shango.
god of
Yeah,
thunder.
Shango.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I'm saying is that for Africa to survive, the emancipatory project has to be multi-cylindered. It cannot be linearly focused or singularly focused, meaning we need to be emancipated philosophically, historically, politically, economically, culturally. We have to do all of that simultaneously. That goes back to a point that Professor Flemming made earlier, to a question that Hafiz raised. That means re-educating ourselves, right? What Ngugi called decolonizing the mind. We speak of education as that which goes through formal schools.
Yeah.
But formal schools can be the place where ignoramia is deepened, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. That could. I mean, during our Africa Daily show, there are some books, of course. Mami Abba give credits to, bring, on what's new. I believe potential books that you may read that actually highlights on education, of course, teaching that people do not know of when they go to classrooms. Like you are being taught something differently, when actually the real issue exists on the ground. So it's kind of like your historical bits and things that you need to know in order to make your own decision as an individual is missing in this particular context. So I think I totally agree with Doc when he mentioned that. I mean, going through the formal session, yeah, that's fine. You get to learn how to read and write and speak all the big English. But as to actually re-evaluating and understanding the whole context and making decisions and how the future would look like is totally missing. Hafiz, Nigeria. I mean, you talk about Nigeria, and anywhere you go, Nigeria has an element in there. Very populous country in Africa, in a continent that, has an influence, and of course with Ghana, it has a very close ties where they call it the sister nation and everything. Prof has decided to caption that, to have it as a very important topic in his book, Surviving Africa in the 21st Century, Echoes and Lessons from the 20th Century.
Yes. When I listen to Prof and Doc, have their take on the issues, and in fact, what I was thinking was not even it. But I from my deductions from their submissions, I don't know. I might be be wrong, but do you think Nigeria has a perception or image problem? And if so, I mean, how do they go about cleaning it, really?
Okay, 3 responses. First is yes. 2 is who constructed that perception and image. And 3 is how does Nigeria understand that construction of that image about it? So what do I mean? Look, the first answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has an image problem.
Right.
Okay. The second one is
Who
constructed that image?
Yeah.
And
Right.
thirdly, has Nigerians themselves understood that construction and tried to deconstruct it?
Right.
I mean, we have a tendency to, each of us here, it's like, did you guys take trunks, those red and black trunks
Oh,
to
yeah,
school?
yeah. Yes.
Okay, each of us here is like a trunk with clothing in it.
Right.
You have dirty clothing, you have new ones, you have semi-new ones. In other words, each of us is a closet of complexities. And Nigeria is, as a country, is complex. It's going to have elements within it that are unsavory.
Right.
But you can't airbrush the whole country by the unsavory elements, which we have tendencies to do. If you go by that logic, America could be classified that way. Any single country in the world could be classified that way.
Right.
Now, the construction that Nigeria is a problem is I would argue, is a new imperial construction. That doesn't mean that there's no problem there. But what's the nature of the problem and who gets to tell the story? There's a story, I'll say this and then we'll shift. It's a story in Ant Hills of the Savannah by Chinua Achebe, where a cheetah has, or I think a leopard has been, a cheetah has been trying to eat this tortoise for many, many years, and the tortoise has been elusive. One day the cheetah corners the tortoise, and the tortoise says to the cheetah, "Give me a few minutes before you eat me." So the cheetah starts, as the story as Chinua Achebe narrates it, the tortoise starts making scratches on the ground, like huge scratches, and the cheetah becomes a bit surprised. He says, what are you doing? And the tortoise response is, so when it is remembered in the future, it will be remembered as a struggle between two equals.
Wow.
What that means is the narrative survives the event. The one who gets to continue to tell the story gets to shape the event. The story always outlives the real thing. So Nigeria, in a sense, is a narrative that has been constructed and imposed upon it, albeit that it has done the things that allows the narrative to be constructed.
Wow.
So the question then is how Nigerians themselves, and they've not helped by thinking that if you send your children to England to go to school, you're doing the right thing. By thinking that if you go to Dubai, you're doing the right thing. I mean, there's no single Ghanaian that I've seen who has been happy visiting northern Ghana. They will not tell the same story as they visit northern Ghana as they will tell the story when they go to London.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So ultimately, the problem we have is a problem of self-making. How do you think of yourself, my brother?
Right.
If they were to ask you to write two long essays, one on European history and one on African history, most students in Africa will not be able to write the one on African history.
That's true.
They won't.
And even if they do write, it's going to be based on what
The
they're being told.
the fault then is multi-located. Partly us. So recently the Achimota University story, I followed it. One of the mistresses who was speaking so loudly about the boy who was wearing a wig. Now think about that.
From the West.
Exactly.
My
So,
goodness.
and she's talking about cultural appropriateness. And she herself is a conduit of Western culture, delegitimizing that which is ancient about African existence.
Interesting, relating of the whole conversation to the whole Achimota, issue right there. But let me quickly, so we can wrap it up, take this one from Dr. Mankutam as well. Is there a way out in terms of the whole issue and the role that, and for me, I feel Nigeria has a responsibility, and a role to play in the whole carving or the whole restructuring of Africa. Is there a way out, Doc?
I think there's a way out, but I think that we have to ask the fundamental question of what are the consequences of passively or actively ignoring the image of Nigeria and by extension Africa in the popular as well as scholarly imaginations. I think that the way out, and it may sound doctrinaire, is only through an African-centered or Afrocentric orientation, a cultural re-education that is not myopic, but one that centers the experiences of African people from antiquity until present day.
Okay.
I think that that cultural heritage and foundation, knowledge of such, is the only way out.
Right.
And that starts in our homes and radiates into the rest of society.
Absolutely. All right, thank you very much. And quite an, in-depth you know, or more, I would say it's in depth, but then still the surface. Much of these whole, you know, dissections, you know, key areas, and in terms of this particular topic, would be found in the book that would be, you know, launched pretty soon. Surviving Africa in the 21st Century, Echoes and Lessons from the 20th Century. And of course, like they say, I mean, Nigeria, populous, powerhouse, oil, natural resources and everything. So clearly it has a role to play. And we're looking at the whole security issue happening, and of course, as Professor mentioned, it's not necessarily about being an extremist person or following a certain belief, but it also has to do with a bit of social issues right there. And for me, I totally agree with that, and I believe you will agree with that.
It's something I left out. It is also an intellectual powerhouse. So if you're going to change the way Africans think, Nigeria has a role.
Absolutely. So Nigeria has a role to play in a whole lot of, you know, areas in order to, and not to say that other countries are actually left out, but Nigeria itself, I mean, it's come a long way, as Doctor mentioned, in terms of history and in terms of other aspects as well. So yeah, this brings us to the end of our topic on centrality, the centrality of Nigeria to West Africa, and I believe and Africa at large, because I mean, you cannot go mentioning 1, 2, 3 countries without mentioning Nigeria in there. So yeah, this video as well will be made available on our YouTube channel, Africa Global Radio. Like, subscribe, and share, and leave a comment. Questions you may have, we'll definitely convey them to Prof and Doc for answers, and that's how we bring you the end of this particular session. We will be moving on to our next conversation pretty soon. Stay tuned.